What's up, guys? This is the Flashy Bro 25 podcast. Anything goes with the Flashy Bro 25. That's the title of my podcast. So today we're going to talk about, you can say, why manufacturing jobs move to China and who to blame. So this guy that owns this company called Value Entertainment, he's basically saying that how China killed America's middle class and how Trump tariffs will bring jobs back to the US. But before we start, I want to say one thing. The title should be called America Sold Us Out, not China. We can't blame everything on China, you know. So yeah, let's see his take on this, what he has to say. You know, of course he's an Iranian. His name is Patrick. You know, he came here from Iran as an immigrant. He did succeed in this country. You know, he went through the system. You know, I give him credit for that. He went to school, educated himself. You know, he got his degree. You know, he's smart. He uses money to invest in stocks and other stuff, and he made it basically. You know, and he opened his podcast, and he's one of those successful story. Now let's see what he has to say about China basically taking our jobs and stuff. You know, some are true, but some are not. But I'll let you guys listen to it.
We made in the last 50 years that destroyed our manufacturing jobs in the U.S. And let me tell you what I mean by this. Imagine in 1970, if you worked in China, do you know what the average employee made in China minimum wage? You ready for this? They made 50 wons per month, which is roughly $20.33 per month, which is roughly 8 cents an hour. That's the labor cost in China. So imagine Nixon is sitting there saying, let's open it up so we can start doing business in China. We do. They call it the ping pong diplomacy because now we can send our, jobs and manufacturers over there. And this was the first time ever a U.S. president visited China. Nixon goes to China. 25 years, there was no communication between U.S. and China at all during that period. He goes, they brokered a deal. Oh my God, that's so awesome. Fast forward, gradually, jobs are moving. Then in 2001, December 11th, China enters the World Trade Organization. Within a span of 8 years later, 6 million manufacturing jobs goes over there. The rich got richer because they're like, listen, if labor to us is going to cost 50 cents an hour in China, it's costing us a bunch of money here. We're about to make a lot of money. But what did it do to middle America? It absolutely destroyed it. We're going to talk about that today.
The magnesium in your cabinet is not only filled with heavy metals, but it also can be making your age faster. And I'm about to prove it. Did you?
Yeah, so before we start here, you can say China didn't really do to us. You can blame the politician moving the job to China for cheap labor, basically. So he's about to show us.
If you get value out of this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Let's get into it. So check this out. I got numbers for you. Ready? Little concerning. Remember how we talked about 1970, the ping pong, and then they go in 2001, China come on in, World Trade Organization. In 1970, the average minimum wage in China is roughly, I told you, 8 cents. Let's say 8 to 12 cents an hour in 1970. U.S. is $1.60, which means we're 13 times more expensive to hire people in America in 1970 than China. In China, you're like, man, we're saving 13 times salary. Send the labor there. Don't do it here. Send it there. Then they go to 2001, World Trade Organization. Come on in, China. Come and compete with the rest of us. Come on in, all these other companies. No problem. Great. In 2001, it's 34 cents an hour. In China, it's $5.15 minimum wage an hour. In U.S., 15 times more. But you know what it is today in China? $3.75 an hour minimum wage now. In U.S. is $7.25, only 2 times more. You can look at this and say a couple different things. Wow, China's getting hammered because their cost has gone so up that now it's like, how are we going to make up with all this? Or you could say, why is our income not growing so fast in America? Well, because we shipped off all that labor over there and we don't have it here. Labor is expensive now here. Let me give you a couple examples of what's happened. Watch this. So if you look at this chart on this website, this shows the percentage of countries manufacturing share output. This shows the top 10 countries by share of world manufacturing output from 1970 to 2018. I got the numbers for today. I'll give it to you. In 1970, if you go look at the numbers on where U.S. was at, we had 29% of all manufacturing jobs. That was U.S. Second was Russia, then Japan, Germany, UK, France, Italy. Look at China, 3.1%. If you let this play out, and you see where it goes to. By 2001, you know what you'll notice in 2001? Let's look at 2001. By 2001, we're at 25.6%. We're still leading the way. China goes from 3% to 8.2, nearly 3xing from 70 till today. But if you keep playing it and see where it goes to today, it's this chart that I have in front of me. China is now 31%. US is roughly 15.9%. And it's projecting that by 2030, manufacturing jobs, you know how many is going to be China? 45%. And by 2030, you know what US is going to be? 11%. This goes from having 18.6 million manufacturing jobs in 2000 in the US. Fast forward 8 years later, 9 years later, that 18.6 drops to 11.4 million. 6 million is gone. What happens to different states? Let's look at it. If you look at this chart, you go focus on 2001. How's Michigan doing with jobs in 2001? Now keep in mind, Michigan back in the days got decimated because of what happened when China opened and they came in. Like, whoa, you're kind of hurting us here. That's the story you have of Michigan. Manufacturing jobs goes over there.
Before we go any further, Patrick tried to blame China too. So basically, he tried to say, hey, China's basically taking our manufacturing job. However, he should know that it's not China's fault that China basically took the job, a manufacturing job. You gotta look at the other sides. First is the American corporations and the CEO. If you look at it, it's all greed, So what they do is they make a deal with Chinese manufacturer, the American company, and they partner. See, with China, they smart. So if you want to do business with China, you have to basically partner with their Chinese company, and basically you have to give your blueprint to them. And once they get your blueprint, that's when you can do business with them. So once they get the blueprint, guess what? Once later on, they're gonna just copy the American technology, and guess what? They're gonna just manufacture their own and brand their own. They smart. The Chinese, they willing to sacrifice their people for cheap labor. However, the top government, the CCP, basically, it's a communist country, so they're willing to sacrifice that part to distribute all the wealth to everybody, So yes, so let's watch him, listen to him again.
The rich got richer because they're like, listen, if labor to us is going to cost 50 cents an hour in China, it's costing us a bunch of money here. We're about to make a lot of money.
See, you just heard him say.
If you're okay with data,
so basically,
cybersecurity.
He said, hey, if it's cheaper to produce over here in China, or you can produce over there in China, man, we're gonna make a lot of money. So everything is corporate greed, and also you guys don't know, the politicians sold us out. If you look at it, they basically sell it because they get a kickback, from the underwriters. And at the end of the day, it's all politics, business, and everything, So you can't blame China like 90% of it. It's like you have to look at it. America has to take the responsibility too.
Security, go ahead and skip this. But if you want secure systems that not only protect your business,
there's all these arguments over tariffs. Mark Cuban, no, it's a worst thing. You should never do it. Trump, my favorite word in the dictionary is tariffs. Everybody's talking about trade. Two decisions we made in the last 50. When they call it the Detroit auto industry collapse between. Like, whoa, you're kind of hurting us here. That's the story you have of Michigan. The 1980s, when they call it the Detroit auto industry collapse, between 1970 and 2010, Detroit lost over 50% of its population. Unemployment in some neighborhoods hit 30 to 40%. Why? It's cheaper to build the same thing in a different country. Why are we doing it in Michigan? Bam, takes a hit. Let's go to the next one. Ohio. Look at Ohio's numbers from 2001. Look what happens to Ohio next. When you go and look at some Ohio stories, what do you hear about? September 19, 1977, a day known as Black Monday, the Youngstown Sheet and Tube Company abruptly closes Campbell Works Mill in Youngstown, Ohio, immediately laying off approximately 5,000 workers. This is where the whole concept of Rust Belt comes out. This continues. Job losses. Initial close led to cascading effect, resulting in the loss of over 50,000 jobs and a Mahoning Valley within the next 5 years. Population decline. Youngstown population goes from 150 when it peaked in the mid-20th centuries to 65,000. Unemployment hit 24.9% in the 80s. This is even pre-WTO, China joining us. So when you look at Ohio takes the hit. Then when you go to Indiana, the impact, Gary's population.
So basically, I'm not gonna show everything about him. So basically, everybody want to blame China, of course, but if you look at it, it's basically who to blame is our corporation. They basically sold us out, and the politician, the same thing for cheap labor, So you don't blame China for all of it. You blame the corporation, the CEO, which they capitalize on Chinese cheap labor force. So the way I look at it, with all these tariffs that Trump is trying to add to China's products, is basically affecting us, because the American company that does business with China, basically, if Trump add that tariffs, it's basically they taxing the American company that brought the Chinese consumer goods over here, and guess who paid for it? It's us as American consumers. People think, oh, it's China, they're gonna have to pay the tax and tariff, all this stuff, but people who understand how economical will work, import, export, logistic, they will understand it's us that's paying for it, the American company is paying for it, Yeah, so if you really do your homework and research, you will find out that nobody to blame but us, and later on it's going to shrink more and more as manufacturing American job, which is shrinking already, and they're not coming back, period, because as the cheap labor and everything costs cheaper, still people still manufacture at China, you can say Vietnam, India, all this Asian country, because if I look at it, American over here, I'm not saying they're lazy, but they're not willing to do or pay work for that minimum wage, slave labor minimum wage, like $3 or what, 50 cents, $3.75. Over here, we can barely survive with $7.25, even $15-20 an hour, with the inflation, the cost of living is crazy. So yes, the manufacturing job won't come back. Even though Trump tried to sell us the agenda, hey, he tried to put America first, make America great again. I know he basically what he's trying to do is, hey, look, let's force American company to come and build manufacturing here, so create a job, but it won't come back, period, They will try somewhat here and there, but if they do, guess what? We're going to pay almost double or triple for the price for the product. Yeah, so. But anyways, if you guys haven't subscribed to my channel, please do. Anything Goes with the Flashy Bro 25 podcast. Alright guys, I'll see you guys next time.